Hey girl, hey, I am Charis Jones. I'm the owner of Sassy Jones Boutique. And so many people ask me, girl, how in the world do you do it all? Where did you come from? How did you build this brand? So I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about my story and my why. And how I even became an entrepreneur. I will tell you, very early on with me, there were signs that I was not an employee, right? I kept getting fired continually over and over and over. And I'm like, gosh, what gives? And the thread there was like, girl, you want to do things your own way. You know, maybe you need to try to figure things out for yourself, okay? So I remember my last corporate job that I was working, I hated it. I was traveling like an hour and a half to Fredericksburg every single day. Now, mind you, I was great at it. Great at sales and customer service and all of that, but I just felt unfulfilled on the inside, right? So I remember driving during that hour and a half long commute, and I heard this commercial on the radio, and it was for a Transformation Expo where you could come and you could set up your table and sell at this trade show. They were gonna have all sorts of big names there, and I got kind of excited but kind of scared, right? So I was like, you want to start this jewelry business. You know, you started this website. It's very small. You're not making really no money. Maybe you need to get out in front of the people. All right. So I called the number. I asked how much it was to vend at the show. And I was just appalled at the price. I was like, $800? You want me to pay $800 to come and sell my jewelry? And there were a number of fear factors involved with that entire experience. First of all, I was a no-name jewelry brand, and I was going to represent myself in this brand new way as this new business owner. Like, who are you to step out in front of these people in this way, right? And the second thing was competition. There were so many other brands around, like brands that have reputable names, right? And I'm just gonna come, just me, myself, and set up and show up my best possible way. I was afraid, very afraid, but I did it scared. So I got my girlfriends, I told them to wear all black, and I set that trade show up my absolute best. I gave it my all. So I wanted to show up like a corporation, right? So we rented TVs. I got really nice table stands, and all that I knew is that I wanted to show up like this major brand, right? So at that show, I gave it my all. I could not afford to pay any of my friends that helped me, but it was a great day and it was a great turnout. And I was like, hold up, homie. If I could do this and make this kind of money in a day, and I actually enjoyed what I did, well, heck, I can leave my corporate job that I hate commuting to every day. So that was the first revelation. I was like, oh my goodness. You know, entrepreneurship is great. You know, money actually can grow on trees, right? And then the second most important thing is where I actually noted that our brand is a legit mission. I heard things from women like, oh my God, I'm too ugly to wear this necklace that close to my face. And I remember like this one specific instance. It was a woman, she came up and we were styling her, right? She didn't see herself yet. We were just putting necklaces on her and switching out earrings and doing all the things that we typically do. And then I handed her the mirror and she took a step back. And I was like, what do you think? What do you think? And she was like, baby, I don't think that I could pull this off because this necklace is entirely too sparkly to wear to my face, this close to my face. And I instantly became sad and internally because I'm like, okay, this is a confidence issue, right? So in that instance, we gathered around her. We were giving her all sorts of motivation and praises. And we're like, girl, you got this. And we just saw her sit up just a little bit differently. She got the necklace, and it wasn't even about the sale, but it was about that light. I became addicted to the light, or we can actually transform how she felt about herself in something as small as accessories, right? So I left my corporate job. But it was a little crazy. So I created this crazy exit strategy of doing marketing tours for a year. And it sounded excellent, but let me tell you the actual details of this tour. I would be in Miami, Orlando, and Philly. I live in Virginia 3 times in 30 days. And I did that for an entire year, right? So I booked myself up on all these tours because this was my exit strategy to be able to make enough money to sustain myself in entrepreneurship. It sounded great, okay? But then one thing happened. I got pregnant with twins. And I was thinking like, Lord Jesus, like, I cannot leave my job now. I can't. It makes so much sense to stay. It makes so much sense to keep your health insurance. It makes so much sense to have predictable income. And girl, you about to be a mama. How in the world are you about to travel the world in a minivan selling jewelry out the trunk? Like, come on now. It makes no sense. So I put the idea on the back burner, just a tinge, right? Just a pinch. And about 3 months into my pregnancy, I was like, no, I'm going to do this. It was specifically when I found out that I was having twins, right? I was like, I'm going to do it, right? So the boys came, and I remember they were born in June. I remember September of 2015 was my first show. We went to Orlando, and I thought I was going to sell out, right? So we packed the boys up in the minivan. We rented a house, made a vacation out of it, and this was my big break, my first real thing out of my corporate job. We got there. I sold a few things. It was hardly profitable, and my spirit was just torn because I'm like, oh heck, girl, you just left your corporate job. Like, what in the world, you know? And so one good thing did happen from that, though. I actually won an award where I was like best in show out of 800 vendors. And to me, that was important because it helped me know that, hey, you showed up a little bit differently, right? So I continued to do that the end of 2015 and all the way through 2016. I even remember a show in February. It was this massive show, like 30,000 people, but it was my first outdoor event, right? I had driven from Virginia all the way to Miami. No overnight stays, nonstop. We just stopped for a pee break, right? And it was me and my girlfriend. So we get there excited, just excited to max out and sell to all these people. I had invested in all of this inventory. So we get there, 95-degree weather. I get under my tent and we start to set up this pop-up shop, okay? We set it all up beautiful and pretty. We went back to the hotel to check in and we came back the next day. The problem is that there was a storm overnight. Yeah. So we approach my area and everything had blown over. Everything. I'm talking tissue paper in the stadium. I'm talking glasses all in the grass. I'm talking jewelry everywhere. And the crazy thing about it is that people saw what happened and they continued to go about their business and to set their area up, right? And so I stopped. I took a look around and I realized that everyone was looking at me and they were waiting on a reaction. But I also realized that it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. So we approached it. Inside, I wanted to die and cry. I'm like, I left my children for this. This is some bullish. Like, what am I doing here? I need to just pack up and just go home. Money like wasted. So I'm like, I had a girlfriend with me. I'm like, no. We're going to build this pop-up back. We're going to build it stronger, better than ever. And we're going to show up our best selves regardless of the circumstance. So you have to be consistent in anything that you do, especially if you've got a goal. You can't let setbacks deter you. So we went through that and I made no money there either. We were completely in the red, right? I have no idea how I survived that year being a new mother, sleepless nights, and on the road that way. So I did it the entire 2016. And at the end of that year, I was faced with, you either need to go back to work or you need to work your business in a way smarter way. Because 9 to 5 is looking real good right about now. That predictable check is looking real attractive. So I decided to give it one more go, like my last shot before I was just going, pull up monster.com and start applying again. I said, I'm going to pivot online and I am going to put my absolute everything into online marketing strategies. So I started to take myself a little seriously. I moved my business out of my home and I got into a studio. This studio was about 600 square feet. It was really just a place where artists come to sell their paintings and all, but I set it up like a boutique. And I said, this is where I am going to have my first public appearance for Sassy Jones, right? A place where Sassy Jones can actually live and not in my house, right? And for the customer, it did something different. It just added a little bit of legitimacy, if you will. And then also, it was a place for me to come out of my home and have a different mindset to going to work, right? That's a whole thing. So we get in there and then I'm like, you know what? I need to live stream to my customers more. I need to come up with this way to be able to bridge the gap of shopping online, or bridge that fear, ease that fear, especially when it comes to jewelry and things like that. So I remember I was listening to a live stream of a woman by the name of Adia Rogers, and she was talking about how to create an HSN-like program for your brand. And I got to thinking, I was like, hold up. I could actually, instead of waiting for HSN to call or waiting on an opportunity, I could actually create my own opportunity. And instead of trying to get on with celebrities or try to get on with all these high-powered people and network my way up, I could grab my friends by the hands and use what God gifted them with their talents, and we can all walk together with increasing this thing, right? And so I was laying down in my bed, and I always get my downloads, I call them, at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And so I was awakened from my sleep, and then just something dropped in my spirit called the Sparkle Party. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do this live stream thing, and we're gonna call it the Sparkle Party. So I remember doing my first Sparkle Party. I had 12 people? Like 12 people were watching, and what it is it was my way of showing the customer and teaching the customer how to style our things, because there's a thing with statement jewelry, you feel like you can't wear it everywhere. But in the Sparkle Party, we make it attainable, right? And so we decided to do that the whole year of 2017. Something happened at the end of that year. I decided to invest more into coaching. I decided to invest more into marketing, and we started to blow up. I remember hiring my first employee, and it was difficult because I didn't even know if I could afford this chick, right? It was a true investment, because let alone I wasn't even paying myself consecutively. And so I hired her, stepped out on faith, but I knew that if I was able to get someone in place to help me grow, I could move on to more income generating activities, right? Because beyond a certain point, you can only get yourself so far. You are going to need help along the way, and that's okay. So I hired her. And in the beginning, it was very hard. Like, there were some payday Fridays where I was just hoping she would walk out the door and forget that it was payday Friday, right? She would turn around, be like, Charis, it's payday. I'm like, dang it, So, but we grew, and then I needed a second girl, and then we needed more space, right? So I was in this 600 square foot studio, and then the place behind me actually became available. I went and rented that, and I'm like, okay, we're good. We have 2 studios now. And then what I did was cut a hole in the middle of them so that we could just walk through. That was a great idea. It lasted maybe not even 6 months, about 3 months, and it was time to move again. Right? So here's how the retail store actually fell in our lap, because I never, ever had a retail store in our business plan. So I knew we needed a much, much bigger space, right? We found this place on Grace Street, and I remember looking through the window of it, and I'm like, this place is large enough. But based on its location, we can actually open a store. And in entrepreneurship, you totally have to be ready for new opportunities and be able to maximize those opportunities. So in my mind, I said we can put a store in the front, we can have a wall in the middle, and the online girls can ship from the back, and we're one big happy family, right? The idea sounded wonderful. It sounded great, okay? So we all moved into this space, and in a matter of months, the store opened. I was so afraid to do that, but it was a blessing. The first day we opened, we had a line when I opened the door waiting for us. And that was a pivotal moment to know the impact of what we had done just online. So many people were excited. And the problem was, behind the store, our online girls were stepping over boxes. It was time to bring larger volumes of shipment in. And I'm like, if we move again, this would be the second time that we have moved in a year. And I never, ever advise that. So we have to move again for the second time in 2018. And I never, ever recommend moving your business twice in 1 year. Hella stressful. Very, very stressful, but that's what entrepreneurship is. So we are in our new space. Today, we have a legit warehouse where we can ship orders out of freely and no one is stepping over boxes. And we've built different channels like the retail store, the mobile app, and now we also have a revenue model, a recurring revenue model, which is our subscription box, which is really cool too, by the way. And the coolest thing happened, which was one of my goals, and I didn't think that I would be able to reach it as fast as I did. Actually, in last year, my goal for the whole year was just to do $1 million in revenue. And I was like, oh my God, if we can do $1 million, yay! You know, less than 3% of female business owners even reach that milestone, and very much fewer for Black women business owners. So we did it in 7 months, right? And so I told my husband, I was like, I need you. Okay, I have built the brand up to the point where I can no longer carry it on my shoulders only. I need someone to help make decisions with me, right? And so I wanted him to leave his job, and he didn't necessarily want to leave his job. He loved his job. And so a series of circumstances happened where I was like, dude, it's time for you to leave. I've met all the goals that you've asked me to meet, and it's time. And he agreed. And so today we are a family-owned business. We work together every day, side by side, and we've built this thing up to heights that I wouldn't even believe. And I know that this is only the beginning. And the most important thing to me is the customer experience. And that's why I think that we've been able to grow at the rapid rate that we have, because we put the customer first in everything that we do. I get emails and inboxes from actually a text the other day. So Keon received a text message the other day, and it just further drives the point of our customer experience, right? So our neighbor had texted him and said, your wife got my wife. And I was like, he said, what in the world? And he showed it to me. I was like, what is this? He sent my husband a picture of a Sassy Jones box with a brooch inside of it. So she had shopped, and I was like, oh my God, tell her thank you for shopping, right? Like, maybe I'll go down and knock on her door, and was like, thank you. But he replied and he said, on Monday, we actually go in for surgery because she has breast cancer. And she told me that she wants Sassy Jones to be a part of her new look. And I completely fell apart. And we get stuff like that all the time. I remember being in our Facebook Messenger about maybe 2 years ago. And there was a woman, and she sent me a picture, and she was just coming from chemotherapy. And she was telling me that she always wears her Sassy Jones scarves during chemotherapy because it helps her feel beautiful. And things like that is what helps me to know that it's way more than a brand. It's a complete mission. And so that's why, that is why we do what we do. It's to truly help women feel undeniably confident about themselves.